Hi guys.
Dave has some really important messages. You have changed your diet considerably.
Yes,
Can you
I have.
tell me just
A little bit about
before? Yeah.
Sure,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Your food choices and how that
That all came about.
changed your life.
Okay. Dave and Yuta Whiting, I teach people how to drive a truck, and Dave and Yuta Whiting came into my truck to learn how to drive, and I weighed about 430 pounds, right around there, and they told me that they knew of a diet. I told them I was dying, and I could feel it, and I'd lived my life, I had 2 kids, you know, and I pretty much lived life, and so I was just kind of waiting to check out, you know what I'm saying? And basically they told me that they knew of a diet that I could go on where I could eat all the food I wanted, and the weight would just fall off. And I was like, well, I've already been on the Atkins diet. Not that I'm saying anything's wrong with the Atkins diet, I'm just saying I had been on it and it did not work for me. And so they said, well, this isn't the Atkins diet. And they were in my truck for like 2 or 3 weeks. So when they told me about it, they said, well, it's raw, vegan, organic, and you just eat it all and you eat as much as you want, you don't have to worry about it. So, well, how many calories do you count? You don't count calories. Well, you know, how often do I have to get on a scale? You don't have to get on a scale. It was just on and on with this stuff. And it's just like, it can't possibly be this simple that a 430-pound man could just lose all this weight. And at the time I had type 2 diabetes, and I was taking double doses of metformin, Actos, and glyburide. I was going down to Mexico and getting more dosages. Anybody that's a diabetic knows what this means. It means I should have been on insulin for at least a year. And so I was doing that because driving a truck in the United States, they have a medical card and you can't be on insulin. I was also eating about 4 packs of Rolaids a day. I was on over 20, somewhere between 22 and 25 prescription medications just to keep me functioning at the obese weight of 430 pounds. I always tell everybody it takes quite a commitment to truly be obese. It takes as much a commitment to be obese as it does to be raw food. You know, again. The difference is it's a heck of a lot funner to be raw food and organic. That's the big, huge difference in it all. So about the 10th day or so of being raw, I told Dave and Judith that I couldn't stay raw because I didn't think it was going to take to it because it just was like so bland and so plain. And so they took me over. We were in LA and we bobtailed this big, huge rig into Santa Monica and parked it right next to Giuliano's Planet Raw. And I mean, the cops even, we just put the money in the machine, they didn't even give us a ticket or nothing. And we went in there, and that was my first experience with raw food restaurants. So I'm heavy on 3 things. One is colonics, the other is dark green leafy vegetable juice, and the third is supporting the raw food restaurants that are in existence, because without that food, I don't think I would have made this transition to raw. But I found the places up and down the I-5 corridor, because I drive from Seattle to San Diego and back, where I could do this. Then Dave and Judith got out of my truck after they were done training, and I explained to people that I taught them how to drive a big rig, and they taught me how to live life to its fullest and live life on the life force. And they told me that the day would come when I'd start feeling everything I'm putting into my body, and my body would just start naturally gravitating it over to a period of time to where I would just desire what was best for me, and that is so true. That is so true. Then about 3 months into raw, I'd lost about I knew exactly because I saw my doctor down there. I lost 89 pounds in 3 months to the day. And then, but I was still eating fruits, and I'm a diabetic, so my blood sugars were still high. So my doctor told me she was going to put me on insulin, and Dr. Gabriel Cousins had just written this book called There Is a Cure for Diabetes. And I got that book. Dave and Judith, I called them up in New Zealand and said, you know, get this book. I can't remember calling them, but the bottom line is I called them up in New Zealand. They told me to get this book. I got it, and I did exactly everything in that book. And in 4 days, my blood sugars plummeted from the high 300s, like 380, 390. So you understand, if you're not diabetic, what your blood sugar should be running is somewhere between 80 and 90. I have consistently, since the 5th day of this diet, been running between 85 and 89 on my blood sugar, so right around 87. This has been going on now for 2 years. I mean, in 4 days, I got off of 3 diabetic meds, and I've seen many, many, many others do the exact same thing. So then I progressed along, and you know, after about 2 years, I lost a little over 2 years. I lost about 230 pounds.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I have not been on diabetic medicines since 4 days. My kidneys were leaking proteins. My left kidney had a slight infection, if I got this part right. I got to double check everything with my doctor. But the bottom line is, I do know my kidneys were leaking massive amounts of protein in my blood system. And my first doctor told me that I was going to end up on a kidney dialysis machine. And he told me that there was no way to reverse this. And in 11 months, I no longer, and I go in for testing every 90 days, I do not even have trace elements of protein in my blood system, not even trace. In 11 months, something that I was told by a doctor was incurable, irreversible, 11 months on raw food and dark green leafy vegetable juicing. I had the beginning of stage 2 or very late stage 1 colon cancer. That was gone in 6 months of dark green leafy vegetable juicing. At least, I would say, 40 to 50% of my diet is juice.